Zakharova's warning, U.S. green light for Ukraine's deep strikes on Russia raises the stakes. Maria Zakharova, the spokesperson for the Russian Foreign Ministry, has issued a stark warning, suggesting that the administration of U.S. President Joe Biden is on the brink of granting Kyiv a dangerous level of autonomy in its military operations against Russia. This assertion follows comments from John Kirby, the White House National Security Council's coordinator for strategic communications, indicating that discussions are underway between the U.S. and Ukraine regarding the potential to expand the range of Ukrainian strikes into Russian territory. Zakharova did not mince words when she stated that the Biden administration is poised to give the Kyiv regime carte blanche for conducting operations deep within Russian regions. Her comments, reported by TASS, reflect growing concerns in Moscow that Washington is not just supporting Ukraine in its defense but is also actively encouraging it to escalate the conflict by using Western-supplied weapons to target Russian soil. The implications of unchecked military support. According to Zakharova, the Biden administration appears willing to go further than ever before in its support for Ukraine, potentially lowering the threshold for the use of American weapons capable of reaching far into Russian territory. The Biden administration is preparing to take new steps, whether moving toward Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky or lowering itself to meet him, I don't know, but they are ready to give him the green light to use practically any type of American weapons, Zakharova remarked, emphasizing the gravity of the situation. This development marks a significant escalation in the conflict, as it suggests that Washington is not only backing Kyiv's efforts to reclaim its own territory but is also considering the endorsement of offensive operations that could strike at the heart of Russia itself. Such a shift would represent a profound change in the nature of Western involvement in the conflict, moving from defensive support to active participation in operations that could dramatically expand the theater of war. The risks of provocation. Zakharova's comments underscore the growing perception in Moscow that the U.S. is pursuing a path of escalation that is becoming increasingly provocative. The potential use of American weapons to target Russian territory would undoubtedly raise tensions to new heights, risking a broader confrontation between the two nuclear-armed states. The diplomat's remarks also reflect a deep concern within the Russian government that the Biden administration's actions could lead to unintended consequences, sparking a cycle of retaliation that could spiral out of control. Zakharova's warning is clear: the U.S. is playing a dangerous game by pushing the limits of its involvement in the conflict, and the repercussions could be severe. The U.S.-Ukraine talks, a tipping point? The ongoing talks between the U.S. and Ukraine about the possibility of expanding the depth of strikes on Russian territory represent a critical juncture in the conflict. If these discussions result in a decision to provide Kyiv with the means to carry out deep strikes within Russia, it could mark a significant escalation, potentially drawing the U.S. and its allies further into the conflict. This scenario raises pressing questions about the future of U.S. involvement in Ukraine. How far is Washington willing to go in its support for Kyiv? At what point does support for Ukraine's defense cross the line into active participation in a broader war against Russia? And what are the risks of such a policy, not just for Ukraine and Russia, but for global security as a whole? Conclusion: a dangerous precipice. Zakharova's warning serves as a sobering reminder of the high stakes involved in the U.S.-Ukraine relationship. As the Biden administration contemplates giving Kyiv a free hand to use Western weapons for strikes against Russia, the potential for a dangerous escalation looms large. The decisions made in Washington and Kyiv in the coming weeks and months could determine the course of the conflict and whether it remains a regional war or escalates into a broader confrontation with far-reaching consequences. In this context, Zakharova's comments are not just a diplomatic warning, they are a call for caution and reflection as the world edges closer to a precipice that could change the geopolitical landscape for years to come.